NBC Universal and Hollywood Trucks did a partnership where they're going to deploy our new Ecoluxe trailers on all of their productions.
Hi, I'm Zena Harris, a founder and entrepreneur working in the entertainment industry for more than 10 years now.
And I'm Mark Rabin, a two-time founder and innovator in the energy tech industry and spent the last decade powering films, events, and festivals with renewable energy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the tie-in. Today, we're here with Andre Champagne, the founder and CEO of Hollywood Trucks. And so last time we talked with you, Andre, was at the Sustainable Production Forum live in Vancouver. And so I remember at that time that you shared this grand vision and pathway for, what you were building and how crew would interact with it and how the studios would rethink energy and, their connection to it and all of that great stuff. So excited to have you back on to give us, tell us what's been going on and, where are you right now?
Well, I thought it'd be appropriate to come to you from the live version of everything we talked about a year ago. So we're sitting in one of the vehicles off grid and running on clean power here on the lot at Universal. So, that entire vision over the past 12, 13, 14 months, it's been a lot of work, by tremendous teams coming together. But that conceptual vision is now real and live. And so every part of it is real and live. And we've got, the new vehicles out on set every day now, doing everything we thought they would do, and more. And so each day that, that we have production interact with them, they're coming up with new and great ideas on how to utilize the vehicles in different aspects, things that we didn't even think about, which is always wonderful. So anytime you build something for people to use, the first thing is that, you just want them to like it, and you just want it to provide something that they didn't know that they couldn't live without. And so that's always the first goal, and so when you're able to do that, and then they come up with even more creative ways on either A, how to save money, or B, how to even accentuate the environmental aspects of it, that's fantastic. So for me, I walk each day on the lot and around the vehicles, just living, I'd say, the dream that I always envisioned. And it's taken a lot of great companies and a lot of great people like you guys to get it here. And so I think we're finally getting to a place of that major tipping point where obviously being environmentally friendly, reduction of carbon, reduction of GHG emissions, reduction of everything to help the environment is always the first priority. But secondarily, when you're getting to a place now where whether that is a personal concern to you or not, the cost savings factor of it is very real and very material and will make a significant difference in production budgets. And so I think that now we're across that tipping point of having both of those worlds really come together, and you can see it in live time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Andre, so good to have you back. I just want to pull it back out a little bit and just tell us a little bit about why you now, right? Because this is not an overnight thing, right? It's always that fresh new face, yeah, cool, new guy on the scene.
I know.
That's not the case, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about just a quick who you are, so our listeners who may not have heard that podcast 100 episodes ago know who you are, and describe to us a little bit about what it is that Hollywood Trucks builds and does, because I think that's impressive. And maybe we'll show some photos as well, because I think we'll get some photos from you as well to share on the YouTube podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Zena and Mark, you guys are pioneers in the business. So, we started this journey. I started the original Hollywood Trucks. We have the original Hollywood Trucks, and then now we have the new electrified autonomous version. And so, we started the original Hollywood Trucks back in 2008. And it was really, at that time, the goal was just to build a great transportation company, a global transportation company. And as we got into it and I saw on set, what was happening in live time, because you talk about being environmentally friendly, but application sometimes is difficult. And we all know that, but But what I saw were things that really needed to change, not only from the environmental aspect, but also just the fact of we could make a difference. And so through that evolution of that first company, we started trying to make clean energy vehicles. And in 2008, 9, 10, 11, there were no electrics. People, it seems, like you say fresh face, but I'm like, "God, I think I'm one of the older guys in this business, or one of the first pioneers with a lot of other great, innovators out there. But at the end of the day, like there were no electrics. So we had to start working on the trailer side. And the goal was always, hey, if we can't make the propulsion, I always break the fleet down into propulsion and non-propulsion. And propulsion would be the trucks, let's say the crew cab 5 tons, the crew cab 550s, semis and stuff. And then you have non-propulsion, which are the trailers that you're pulling. And so, there were no electrics at that time. And so we had to focus on the trailer side, very much like Mark, you focused on the batteries and stuff,
Yep.
And so through that evolution, we had gotten to a place back in 2000. I remember the first PV panel I put on a trailer was 2012. And by 2014, it had become an obsession of mine to figure out how to make this thing run on its own power,
Mhm.
And so by 2014, I remember I think it was July 12th, where the first one ran for like 12 hours powering everything, and I was like, this is mind blowing. But it was just cool because it's fun to see, photovoltaics and turning power into something that just is visually not even possible through the air is like still, it just fascinates me, just like electricity. But, over the culmination of that, we had gotten to a place by 2015, 16, 17, where we were building, off-grid talent trailers and then moved it into the camera trucks and the wardrobes and stuff. And we had a fully off-grid base camp in late 2015, early 2016. And so that kind of took the company into a transition into more clean energy. And in 2019, the company was approached to be sold. So what happened was, so we sold all the tangible assets. So at that time, it was really a great time to kind of begin divesting of those. We retained the name, the intellectual property, the patents and stuff. And then after a couple of years, post COVID, post non-competes of that acquisition, I always set out on a mission. And the mission was that by the time I'm finished with what I'm doing, our production industry runs on clean energy. That's the mission. And it's going to take everybody, but I'm trying to do my part. And so I felt like we weren't even getting started. Even 2019, 40, 50 talent, let's say if there were 40, 50 off-grid talent trailers in the business, that's probably a high number, so I always knew we were right on the cutting edge of it there. And so now, even as I come back into the business, the mission's not complete and we're not, we've got a long way to go. We're making great strides, but I feel like now finally some of the propulsion side is coming into it because even if you take the entire, let's say, base camp fleet or all the trailers, and the 53 footers off grid, you still have the class 8 semis, you still have the mid duties, you have all of the vans, the cars, everything. So you're getting 50% of the way there. But now finally we're seeing, some of the clean energy based assets on the propulsion side. So I feel like we're getting to a place where we're about to get into the stride of clean energy on sets, and I think some of these are getting to very exciting places where we're now being able to utilize more power on set than we've ever had. And it's just there and it's clean and it's renewing itself each day. And that's why I like to call it autonomous, because, those words now, I mean, the goal for in the mantra of the new autonomous Hollywood trucks, the mission is it's autonomous power for everything. So we will feel like we've completed our mission when every single one of our vehicles, trucks and trailers, runs on their own power.
Mhm. So can you break this down for us? Because it sounds cool as a top line, but how are the trailers working, performing? How are people interacting with them right now, on the lot?
Look, thankfully, as I mentioned, anytime you build a product and you put it into someone else's hands, it can be slightly nerve-wracking. And obviously, look, there's a lot of environments that you can put, vehicles in, products in. The film and television industry is a very hard testing ground.
Mhm.
You can build vehicles to withstand. I always say,
It's almost like military.
production spec is as tough as mil spec. And
Yeah.
and so you're working with different owner operators every day, different individuals who have certain, let's say, knowledge bases on the vehicles or not. So it's tough. And also rigorous, standard, let's say RVs, you might use them on the weekends with the family for a couple, 2 or 3 months out the year. We're logging 80-hour weeks where vehicles, you got 3 company moves sometimes on a day. So you're putting vehicles through extremely harsh commercial environments. And so for me, when you build a product and you put it out there and you want to see what the client thinks of it, it's nerve-wracking. But what we've seen to date so far, I mean, the vehicles are just performing exactly like we expected them to, which is they never need to be plugged in. You'll still see at times, I mean, because you also, even when you put this brand new amazing technology out there, you still have to have the learning curve catch up with it. So you're still going to have some tried and true, best practices that, let's say, the productions are accustomed to using,
Mhm.
that have to transition as well. So it's going to take the education component of it too. But what we've seen in the field, the results have been nothing short of just astonishing. And I say that because I'm getting to see real power not only being made and being used in the vehicle, but now excess real power and the ability to distribute it. And
Mhm.
I always say that's the way Nikola Tesla always wanted it to be. He wanted it to be free and clean and distributed, and we can do that now. So, now in live time, I mean, I'm sitting in a vehicle right now that I'm running 100% off grid. It hasn't been plugged in 7 months, and I don't ever expect to plug it in ever or need any external power source to it. Quite frankly, we now are, really fine tuning and testing and using vehicle to grid applications. So these vehicles all grid cell and they do it easily. They do it all day. It's free clean power. And it is not a small amount of free clean power. When you start putting these, let's say groups of 20, 40, 60 of these on a lot, you are getting into megawatts of free clean power every day, all day. I mean, as long as that big thermonuclear reactor in the sky called the sun, keeps putting out intense amounts of energy, it's happening all day, every day. And it's not conceptual. This is in practice. This is real. This is commercialized. This is any grid in the world. And this is real power now being used for anything else. I always tell people we've got like 20 of them now on the lot at Universal. We will stop people at the actual teams on the ground here they'll see a vehicle and they'll have an electric car, and we can charge anything, NACS, J1772 trucks, whatever, it doesn't matter. They will pull up to them without even saying anything and just plug in. And it's
Well, how
distributed power. And
right. But I mean, there's no control. You can't that's
it is so easy and so user friendly, Mark, that you're seeing now, like I'll come to the lot and there'll be 5 trailers parked somewhere and you'll see 5 electrics parked into them and I don't even know who they are. But that is amazing because for a number of reasons. Number one, it's free clean power. That is truly off grid free clean power. So that's the part that it gets me excited. And I'm only talking about the small, like 40-foot talents and stuff. When you see the big 53s that we have built,
yeah. Yeah.
those vehicles will change transportation history forever, and they will be the first asset class that I've seen class 8 power itself. And so now you're getting to a place where you've got a class 8 semi. We all know fuel prices right now are very aggressive.
Mhm.
Very aggressive. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yep.
And, it's one thing to go electric because electric is stabilized, price points. It's obviously less expensive. But when you start generating your own power, that's a whole different, you're launching into a different era of transportation or
Right.
of asset power, period. It doesn't matter whether it's class 8 or not. It's mobile. When people say, oh, you guys built, great Ecoluxe talent trailers. I was like, well, you didn't call it a talent trailer, but it's really a commercial grade mobile power distribution unit. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the acronym for
That's
that.
the backside of the paper.
Well, yeah, I mean, what people might not really understand is they see the solar panels and they go, "Oh, cool! Yeah, right, you got solar." But what they don't see is a complex power system. I mean, you've got everything in there: batteries, chargers, power electronics. You've got HVAC. You've got heating. You've got hot water. You've got pumps. You've got water. Right? I mean, this is like a
complex.
fully complex system.
Yeah, Mark, and you've seen it. It's
Yeah.
complex vehicles. I mean, I take nothing away from the sheer ingenuity and trials and tribulations. And if you even looked at the electrical diagram just for our transfer switch, that's 3 years of work and 5 years in the field of testing and just, under, really difficult conditions. And so these vehicles, I always say they're built differently. They're not RVs. This is very similar to how some of the greatest, I guess you would say, automotive manufacturers build an engine and then build, like, let's say the frame around the car and stuff. We take the same thought process. So the number one goal is, how do you make the four-walled shell, as energy efficient as possible? And you start with that idea, and that, the entire team, the goal is every watt has to fight for its life, to stay in the vehicle. And so these vehicles are open cell, spray foam, thermally insulated. The batteries configurations that we use are specifically used at certain voltages to maximize efficiency ratios. The inverters, the panels that we use are not just off the shelf. They're specifically, tailored to what we look for. And then also the first and foremost priority is the refrigerant value of the vehicle. Get that as high as you possibly can, because then you're in a great efficiency ratios. And then when you add a 24,000 BTU heating and cooling system to a 280 square foot room, when people, I always enjoy comments because people always ask great questions, and they, but can you really heat or cool it? And I always say, we can turn you into almost liquid nitrogen and freeze you, or we can burn you up, because you've got these ultra powerful systems in these tiny places that use very little power. And so it really is, it's the culmination of a lot of things coming together. And the electrical diagrams, when people see the electrical diagrams for the vehicles, we always kind of talk about it, because if you look at a bill of materials for these assets, there was a lot. That's a very significant list, and the craftsmanship behind them. I have to applaud the team, because it takes everyone, and you've got not only just remarkable electrical engineers, you've got remarkable skilled craftsmen, in woodwork and steel and everything, because every part matters. Everything matters, and the most difficult thing you can do in the world is to try to make something ultra complex looks simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Amen.
So the vehicles right now are, as you said, powering themselves, have excess power for electric vehicles that are plugging into them, and have power left over to feed back into the grid.
Mhm.
And so and then it's just going to, and then you're going to have bigger ones coming, the 53 footers as well, that has even more. So how are people kind of rethinking how they're interacting with this? I mean, how, you've been around a long time. Like, how are people rethinking this?
Yeah, Zena, every single day I'm getting texts now from the crew. Hey, can we can we plug catering into this overnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, can we, I was on set yesterday of an Amazon feature called Tyrant, and they had about 8 of them in the line, and it was just a beautiful photo. And I walked up, and I almost, it almost brings like tears to your eyes because you sit there and you look at a row of these vehicles that are not only just off grid and powering themselves, but there's 8 other EVs parked right in front of them, tied in,
Hmm.
looking at just free clean energy in exactly the application we always dreamed it could be used in. And that's now occurring every day. And so what you're seeing is a truly compound effect of the not only the carbon reduction and just environmental friendly, uh, best practices. You're encouraging now cast crew individuals that always wanted to drive their electrics to set no matter where it's at, but they had nowhere to charge. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, that's actually was one of the main things when we first started, and Xena was instrumental in this, was convincing, the driving force or enterprise or whatever to get electric cars. And then what was the second thing they would say?
where's the chargers?
We're gonna charge
Well,
them.
how are we going to do this? We can't
Yeah.
have electric cars on set.
Yeah, and when you're talking about cost savings, so I mean, obviously there's some great mobile chargers out there, but if you're trying to get like 10 or 20 of these, to bring them to set, that's cost prohibitive. And so, that's why we decided that we would put the EV chargers on every vehicle. So if you've got 10 of the talents, you've got 10 EV chargers now right at anywhere you've got them. The 53 footers have 2 on each 53 footer. So you're now, let's say you've got a typical base camp where you've got 3 53s and let's say 10 talents, you've got 16 level 2 and above EV chargers right there at base camp, not even pulling power from anything.
Yeah.
So that's the other differential too. So whether you want to charge the car or you want to plug in a mobile BESS system or some types of the lithiums, obviously portable electrics, but you can plug really in. We always say, we can power anything. So, the each trailer, we thought it was fun. We said, like if we're going to be giving away free power, we might as well have fun with it. So we call them FreEco Ports, which stands for free and eco.
Freak. Oh, that's great.
You got a FreEco port on every 40-foot talent, and then on the 53s, you got the super FreEcos, and those are the big ones. And so that way you get, just free, clean, distributed power. And you can come out of that with like 15 amp, 20 amp, 50 amp. And also all the grid tie connections are there as well, which, by the way, is probably one of the most cool things to see, but also easiest to do. It really is very easy. When people think about V2G or, vehicle to grid or vehicle to load or vehicle to home or whatever, terminology you're using, that is exceptionally easy, you know. So it's really getting fun. Every day we get more and more questions. Hey, can we plug this in? Or can we do that? Or hey, what if we took an Instagrid and put 5 of them together? Can we do this? Totally. Absolutely. So they're coming up with new and different ways to use the power. And that's the really, really fantastic part of it. It's free, it's clean, it's distributed, it's autonomous, it's what, it never gets old for me to see. I literally at times while I'm sitting here on set, I'll flag people down to try to charge something, because if we don't use it, or
You're
wasting it.
curtailing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's really a wonderful, wonderful place, and it begins to enhance and complete that, it's part of completing the mission.
Yes. And it's truly it's the defining moment of our time. Like your Hollywood Trucks, the Ecoluxe trailer represents all of the ingenuity the last 100 years and the film industry, where it's going in one. And I think that to me is like, when I look at that and I see what you're doing and I see it at NBC, which we'll talk about in a sec, right? It's like, this is the future and the past all in one. And that's what's exciting to me, right? You look at it and you go, yeah, that's it.
Who doesn't like free power, and who doesn't like free clean power? And then, when you think about it now, I mean, the biggest change in that's occurring right now, obviously everyone talks about AI and compute And, what's the rate limiting factor to any and all of that? Power.
Yeah, power.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter how amazing your particular, let's say AI agent may be, or your GPT or whatever, you still need power. I mean, what are all of the biggest companies in the world right now doing? They're raising tremendous amounts of capital, the amounts that we've never seen before, all to build power plants and compute plants. You know, I mean, they're becoming power companies. So
Yeah.
I look at it, it's an exciting time, and energy is, and the best part of it is as you begin to get into the mega amounts of power needed, that's actually where the clean power initiative shine the best.
Yeah. Hey, Andre, just to shift gears here, I'm sure we've people are like, okay, guys, stop talking and stop nerding out about the hardware. No, but it's look, you've been in stealth mode, more or less, right, for the last two-ish, right, years. Um, there's some big news that came out recently, and super exciting, right? Yeah, right. I'm sure you've been holding this in for a long time, but you made it public. So, yeah, and I've been following along, and you've got great people. You weren't be able to do this alone, and you've got great people at NBC Universal that believed in you and believed in the product. Tell us the news that just came out last week, I think.
Yeah, it was very I think on Earth Day. So it's
Very
about
Nice.
April 22nd was, and yeah, the, NBC Universal, and Hollywood Trucks did a partnership where they're going to deploy, our new Ecoluxe trailers on all of their productions, on lot and off lot. And it's a huge new clean energy initiative that they're doing because they want to take the entire studio. I mean, obviously, Comcast NBC is a substantial company, large publicly traded, multiple entities and resources across and assets across multiple countries. And so, this initiative into the film and television division of these utilizing clean energy assets, Jeff Stone and everyone, they looked at this, and Craig Lewis and everyone looked at this and said, "Hey, this is a power transfer. Like, this is not just about production. This is a new innovative power transfer
Mm.
of how can we bring more distributed power to the lot, and so we have a multi-year deal where we're going to provide the vehicles for. We're building a fleet out for them. It starts in Los Angeles and expands into multiple territories that they have over different countries. And so they plan to put this initiative in, and that's fantastic. I mean, look, every major studio now really, it's not just a eco-friendly conversation. It's a real mandate. And so, as we always wanted, Mark, I mean, we sat on this lot 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago with your first battery, and our first trailer. And so it's,
NBC was one of the first to buy some of our units as well. Shannon Bart was the one who was overseeing that initiative at the time.
yeah, and Shannon's a wonderful, wonderful, she's been in this since, day one. And so, as all of the studios truly care now. And what's occurring now is it's not just a conversation point, it's a mandate. And that's wonderful. And that's what we always wanted, And so the team at NBC Universal has been fantastic. We have an exciting growth plan with them over multiple territories. But look, we're just getting started. I mean, this is something that transcends film and television. It transcends the theme parks. It transcends, I mean, think about it. The Olympics in Los Angeles are coming up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're solving, these vehicles solve substantial amounts of problems, and that's what's great about them. Because I always said, everybody's got to win. And for the first time, clean energy vehicles really produce wins for everyone, for the studio, for the client using them, for the production, for any private sector company producing them that wants to grow, everybody. And of course, the environment. So, everybody wins from it. And when you've got a scenario like that, then that's something that's hard to stop. And that transition is not occurring. It's occurred. And so now it's just ramping up. So And for the longest time, we had to wait for technology to catch up. So when we first started building this, I remember, I mean, we had like 3 panels on the roof, a little 3.2 kilowatt inverter with like 4 AGM batteries. And so now the power sources that are on these vehicles are 30x that power. And what's really remarkable and fantastic, and what everyone can be encouraged and enthusiastic about, is in 5 years from now, when every battery in these vehicles are going to be solid state and charge in 9 minutes and hold 3,000 amp hours, and the PV panels are going to be at 47% efficiency, and where you're producing 12,000 watts on a 40-footer. Like when you're then holding like 100 kilowatt hours with 12,000 watts on a roof of a 40-footer, like there will be no place or no time you will ever need auxiliary power to these things. And so that's going to occur on the trailer side. It's going to occur on the propulsion side. We're already seeing it, and especially in the the heavy duty trucks, the Class 8s. So you've got some remarkable Class 8 semis coming out now in live time. And I think that was one of the main missing pieces of the puzzle. And now
we're talking about electric. You're just to be clear here, you're talking about semi-transport trucks that are electric.
Yeah, electric semis. And so that class is now live and real. Every OEM's out there. Tesla just announced, I think 2 days ago, that their first production semi has come off the line at their high production facility. Every OEM is building them. And so now and for us in production, when you combine that truck and that trailer, I mean, most of these trucks, and I'll use specs on the Tesla, you're talking like a megawatt of battery storage, on a vehicle that has a range of 500 miles and operates at about 1.4 to 1.7 kilowatt hours per mile. You're talking, but when you're combining that with a trailer that's producing also 20,000 watts of PV and got its own 250 kilowatt hour, then now for us, you have a 53-foot semi truck and trailer that's got 1.25 megawatts of battery storage with 20 kW of PV. That's a very powerful vehicle, and an exciting one too, because by the way, it also is silent. So now you've taken the noise factor out of it. It's using clean energy, and if it's generating its own energy, even more beautiful, and so you're going to see that level of transportation really take a tremendous step forward right now. I mean, I say you're going to see, I'm talking about 3 days from now, like this is not pie in the sky, 3 years from now. This is like, you'll see, ours will unveil in about 30 days. So this is real. So everything that we were talking about 1 year ago that was, let's say, visionary at that time, that vision was one that we weren't looking through it with a telescope. We were looking through it, with a pair of bifocals, right there. It's right there.
Yeah. And so this basically takes away the big issue of range anxiety, because if they're powering their cells, you can drive forever. If the, trailers on the lot can power electric vehicles, you've always got power right there. Range anxiety isn't even a thing. So this is just taking away one of the major issues that has been holding people back from, getting an electric vehicle, and, therefore reducing the carbon emissions, writ large.
Totally correct. So what's going to happen is range anxiety is always going to be there until you get to a point of which, by the way, we're extremely close. So think, a combustion-based engine asset, you can never get to, the only way you would ever get to a range of, let's say, like 1,000 miles or 1,500, is you'd have to increase the size of the fuel tank because, just the simple physical nature of liquids. But with battery technology and photovoltaic technology, the end result is endless, because the only thing that's going to happen is the battery is going to continue to get smaller, specific energy density is going to continue to get higher, efficiency ratios of the PV panels are going to continue to go up, and before you know it, in 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about cars that you plug in, they charge in 6 minutes and have a 1,500-mile range.
Yeah.
And so at that point, then what else is there that would stop you really from transitioning over? And so we're less than 5 years away from that being a very normal, event. I mean, that's happening in live time right now. So I think at that point, that's when and also you're seeing charging networks expand daily. I mean, the
Mhm.
networks are just becoming very robust. There's still lots of areas that, let's say are more rural that, you still will have those areas, but that gap is closing quickly. And, and I think obviously, look, fuel prices going up always accentuates that speed at which that had that distribution of charging network as well as adoption of electric vehicles occur. But you got like we're getting there very quickly now. And that's what I said, for the first time, I think we're hitting a stride in clean energy. And I'm speaking just really on behalf of vehicles. That's happening in many multiple sectors. So whether you're talking about clean energy construction equipment or clean energy, even
Oil and gas, even
oil and
like, I mean, all that infrastructure. Yeah.
clean. I mean, we've had multiple oil and gas companies reach out to us in the past month because they want to move their initiatives into clean energy and how they're, let's say, controlling their different operations, with different, mobile command centers that are operating off grid and stuff. So, it really, once you get to the place where it makes unbelievable economic sense, then you also see people transition over to where they start caring about the environment.
Yeah. So just to, highlight the irony here, even the oil and gas companies are getting off oil and gas
For
for their operations.
Yeah.
And the mobile, yeah.
Here's the thing, oil and gas is always going to have a place in global application because there's so many different things it's used for, even outside of burning it as a combustion fuel.
Mhm.
So, but no matter what type of company you're operating, if you're in business, if you're in commerce, and you start seeing a measure that could make a dramatic impact on your business, think about it right now. If you're, let's say, and I'm going to go tilt it back towards transportation because it's where I spent the majority of my life in. If you're a Knight Swift or some of these like massive Amazon fleets, UPS fleets, FedEx fleets, and you're paying $8 a gallon in fuel right now, I mean, that is not that's not great business economics when you could, let's say, comparably say you're going to pay 43 cents for a kilowatt of energy that gives you the same distance as that, that's you start doing the economics and it becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to begin to see that a lot more now. And, and that's exciting. And again, our entire mantra is autonomous power. So we want to push it past that to where you're not just tying into an electric, let's say, supercharger, megacharger, or whatever. That vehicle itself is producing its own power. And so that's what we really focus on at the company. That's our continued mission, because it's a very difficult one. And it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of ingenuity and a lot of great people working together to accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Andre, so just thinking like, in the past, there was a lot of naysayers, right? A lot of folks were like, "Wah, wah, wah," and they would do everything they could to kind of make it not be a thing. But those days are gone. But are you still getting any resistance, or, what are you hearing out there on the lots and so on? Or is that just a thing of the past? Because that's something that we come across,
If you have ingenuity and technology, it's never going to be a thing of the past. You're always, anytime you're putting a product into any environment, there are going to be people that love it. There are going to be people that are 50-50 on it. There are going to be people that maybe don't love it. And it might be for different reasons that they don't. It's no different than any consumer when they're going to buy a phone and they say, we're going to go with, Apple or Samsung or, Huawei or, so, yeah, of course, we have people that, what I found is they're asking more questions. So rather just saying, that doesn't work, we're asking more questions because and I always said it's going to take every vendor to complete the mission. It's not just Hollywood Trucks, it's going to take everybody. So our goal is that when we finally, dust the hands off and say, okay, it's time for retirement and I'm going to have boat drinks in Acapulco, whatever you do in retirement, that we had an integral part in the entire industry shifting to that. So it doesn't matter what company you are. I will view success at what we set out to do is if you have seen the entire industry shift to that. And so what I've found is in individuals who may have had, let's say, a negative mindset on something, or a lot of times it comes from two factors. Number one, them understanding either the technology and the product more, or what it could provide for them as a benefit, or also, it always comes down to education. So just having that person understand what you have, what benefits it brings for them, so you're always going to have naysayers. And I found that if you look at it, and what I like to talk to the team about is I said, look at every one of those comments because in those you find remarkable ways to innovate and you find remarkable ways. There might be one comment that leads you to, wow, that actually is a great comment. And you know what? Let's solve that. And so you learn much in business. I've always found, the ones that teach you the most are the ones that generally don't work or you learn the most. So they were the hardest and they took you through trials and tribulations that they were not comfortable. And so when you see any comment, we don't take any of the comments. Number one, you can't take them personally. Number two, look at them for diamonds in the rough of, boy, that's a really great comment. Or number three, how can I just show this person, what we're doing and they learn more about it and hopefully they begin to embrace it because no matter what, clean energy is happening and it will change everything. So you've got to know and you've got to understand and you got to embrace the change. I mean, and look for opportunities into it. There's always opportunity. I tell people all the time that let's say they have certain pieces of equipment or certain things that they think are, most people operate when they're posting something like that, it's coming out of a place of fear of what's going to happen to X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. And if you speak with those individuals, like for instance, let's say, I had a big conversation 2 days ago with base camp generator operators and individuals that had all the packages. And I said, here's the thing, we're going to need all of that. And the only thing that you're going to see is instead of power flowing this way, it's going to flow that way. That's it. And so once they began to think about that, and I said, I'm going to need all of those because we need to tie in this unit, that unit, all to the grid there so we could send them power. And that's when everything changed. And they said, oh, we didn't think about that. And so I think most of the times, and then there's always just going to be people who you can't make happy, and that,
and they're going to retire anyway. So,
but you just can't. We focus on the product. It's because the product is what the client interacts with. And so when you combine trying to build the best product with a great relationship with the client, then generally, you get your best innovative ideas most of the time from the clients because they're using them all the time. So I would say we spend more time on set and more time in the vehicles than any company I've seen to date, and that's because not only do we love the vehicles, we love our clients. And that's where you get the real life experiences to enhance the technology, to give them something that alleviates a pain point from them. That's it. You're just trying to create something that makes humans' lives better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen.
Here.
On that note, Andre, this has been amazing and, just a really powerful conversation.
Yeah.
Look, we share in your passion and I've seen it firsthand and I've seen how you take every piece of this. So, like it's your passion, it's your drive. So thank you for this, and love following your story. Where can people find you? Hollywood Trucks. I know you're probably going to be doing some PR coming up and branding stuff. But where can people find you? Find Hollywood Trucks? How can they follow along?
Yeah, look, and first of all, thank you both, because, it takes individuals like yourself, or not only pioneers in the business, advocates, love it like we do. And yeah, it's a lifelong passion. So, I always tell people when they say, where can they find me? I'm either above a trailer, in a trailer, or below a trailer. But probably more easily, if you wanted to, learn about the company, hollywoodtrucks.com, you'll at least see, and then there's easy reach outs on there too. And I mean, look, we love the interaction with the clients. I mean, we've got some great events coming up. We've got some more really exciting news coming up as we announce some of the new vehicles and stuff. So, I mean, through your typical avenues, whether it's Instagram or any of those things, I mean, we're just going to continue building the best vehicles we can possibly build, and the cleanest, to reach the goal of autonomous power.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. We will keep an eye out, and I hope all our listeners do as well. Thanks, Andre. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you both. And look, I'm excited to see you guys. I can't wait for you to see what we announce in the next 30 days. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, keep in touch. And everybody who's listening, if you like this, please like and subscribe. Share this conversation with your friends. I'm sure this one will go far and wide. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Sharon Ewan. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werbel.